All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for our podcast, number 37. Yeah,
Whoa.
and this one's going to be about Hunter x Hunter.
Yes.
Yes, and its unique form of storytelling.
Because it certainly has that.
Yes, and that's kind of like a small hint of the puzzle that makes Hunter x Hunter a truly unique shonen.
Yes, because we... this is, one small piece. We couldn't talk about the entire thing. That will not fit in the one podcast.
Right, so we're keeping it simple, and we're going to discuss a bit of that there. But before we do that, we've got to give a shout out to one of our VIP patrons who joined us recently, Vrakos. He's actually been a patron of ours for a while.
Yeah.
But just recently he upgraded to being a VIP. So shout out to you, dude. You're awesome. You're also killing it in the Discord events right now.
Those stand battles, wow.
This guy is literally the Speedwagon of stand battles in on the Discord. If you don't know what that's about, check out the Discord if you're a patron. It's
pretty cool.
Pretty legit.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So Hunter x Hunter is kind of a special show.
Yes, just a bit.
We don't necessarily have the full perspective necessary to kind of speak on the entire show because
we're only halfway through it.
Well, yeah, we've got a ways to go.
Yeah.
But based on where we've come from, the kind of shifts between arcs that we've noticed, and kind of following these characters on their grand journey, we've noticed that Hunter x Hunter seems to use a very unique form of storytelling that's not used in like any other shonen because it's risky. It's very hard risky to pull off.
Yes. Well, because that's discovery storytelling.
Yeah.
And the thing is that'll be done in a lot of other stories, like in general. Like there's, generally discovery and outline-based, storytelling for how you plan how the story's going to go.
Right.
With discovery being more of just, let's see where it goes, right?
Right, let's follow these characters and just whatever makes sense for them to do, they do.
Exactly.
We don't necessarily constrict our characters based on what the plot needs to do.
Right.
It makes the show much less predictable, but it also means that you're going to have a lot of things that are clever misdirects for what you think when you think the plot is trying to constrain the characters, when actually this is just the natural extension of the characters' motivations made manifest by wherever the story happens to take them.
One of the things that, because we've had our issues with, longer running shows and stuff, and usually that's because it stagnates in the area of characters and world building and all that stuff, and feels kind of repetitive. Hunter x Hunter doesn't do that, and it's amazing because
not at all.
It's a long show.
It's a very long show. We're almost over 80 episodes into it right now.
Yeah.
And it's crazy just thinking about how much story we've gone through, but also how much different kind of style of story we've gone through.
Right.
It's not that Hunter x Hunter feels like we've just constantly been adding upon to itself. It makes little deviations here and there, like when they went to the Zoldyck mansion for a few episodes.
Yep.
When we get into a high-stakes thriller with the York New bit, and it just gets crazy. When we're going into the crazy in-depth world of Greed Island, and we're suddenly getting all this new info and stuff. It's very risky to have these very different kind of directions that the story takes it while keeping it grounded by the characters primarily.
And even now, even though we're, halfway through it, it still feels like the story's just getting started.
Right.
But in a good way. Not in a way this is taking so long, but no. There's so many things that this story's going to do, and we're just now beginning to peel back, and get a good look in and be like, oh wow, that's what they've got planned for us.
Right. The way we described it, I think, in a recent discussion was Hunter x Hunter has been assembling the board with all of the toys it wants to play with in the story as a whole, and now finally, as we get into the Chimera Ant arc, it's actually playing with all the toys.
Right.
Not necessarily every single thing, but all the ones that become relevant, they get utilized.
Right.
And then we get, we're going to talk about this in a future point, but this is why I think a lot of people are excited for Hunter x Hunter's near infinite journey. We don't care how long it goes or when it ends. We just want to see what's the next discovery, what's the next kind of step along these characters' paths, so to speak.
Because, if you think about it, just throughout the show, there have been so many little things that would be like, oh man, that's awesome. I'm so glad they did that, in the moment or whatever. Like characters that are there for just a couple episodes maybe, right? Yeah. And their story isn't finished because they still have lives apart from the main characters, right?
They just exist out there in the world somewhere.
Yep. And that gives such an amazing sense of wanting the story to just continue forever, because you're like, I want to see that character again, and that character again, and that character again, and that area again. When will they go back to this place?
It's very special. It feels
that is very special.
It feels almost in a lot of ways like a really good video game universe. That you want to do all the side quests in. You want to go and explore that mountain and go to all that. It's that open world feeling of like this is an actual world. There's a lot of times where stories, especially in the shonen genre, feel like a linear RPG, where you've got rails that the story has to go on. And because of that, you can kind of guess, all right, this is the next mini-boss. Right. This is the next kind of stage of growth for the main character, not really anyone else.
And they can keep it super enjoyable, but where we ended up having trouble with a lot of the times is we would end up getting fatigued, right?
We would just get tired because they keep doing that for 100 episodes, and we'd be like,
and if we wanted to see like something new, like say some new show, right? Even if it did a lot of things that were really good, we wouldn't be able to fully appreciate it because it would seem too similar to that other show we watched, right?
Yeah. And that's
Hunter
all.
Does not have
that's
that
all just completely removed as a problem because of the discovery-based storytelling dynamic. The next thing we wanted to talk about really well that HunterxHunter's just does uniquely well is that the world building in the story is done by shifting the character perspective dynamically. So we, in the beginning, focus on Gon, and we get kind of just enough world building to let us know kind of what style of story this is going to be.
Yeah.
And then it happens, and we start adding in new characters.
And they don't feel like they're in a rush to basically show different world-building bits, right? They do it as it makes sense for the character to, go there, start asking about that, want to learn about, such and such, right? Like how long it took for them to actually get around to Nen. But the entire journey there was so good and so worth it.
Right, and what we had was other characters in the main character's path that knew about all this stuff.
Right.
But they were not going to exposit to the main character about what all these things are that the main character doesn't know about so that the audience can get informed. No.
You don't need to know.
We don't need to know that. So we're moving the things along at the main kind of character perspective focus. So once it shifted things over a little bit and gave, say, Killua a little bit more perspective, we got to learn things about his family. We got to learn things about his brother and kind of just his general past and how it's like, he's a little bit more of a complicated person than Gon.
Yeah.
And we kind of had a taste of that with Kurapika and Leorio, but it wasn't really big until we got into the later arcs where they focused on, Nen, and then we got into Kurapika's whole story there.
That whole crazy story.
Which that really wouldn't have worked if Hunter x Hunter hadn't built us up with the idea that the main character in the storyline's perspective is the only one that's important. As far as world building goes. If you notice in Your Canoe, Gon and Killua don't really have a lot of world building through their perspective.
Nope.
Not really.
Yeah, because they're not the focus right now.
Exactly.
And one of the other things, like this is a bit of a smaller thing, but I think this is just really cool. The way that they had Leorio kind of move out of the story.
Right.
Because he's a more, simple, good-natured guy, and maybe he doesn't necessarily belong in all this, crazy stuff that's about to happen.
Right.
And they just did that. And
because that was his goal, to become a doctor.
Exactly.
So he went and did it. There was nothing that drove him and forced him to be a part of the main cast, so to speak, because he was introduced
in the first episode.
In the beginning of the story.
Right. Yeah.
Which is something that a lot of stories are a little bit scared of doing. They don't want you to be experiencing dramatic changes, essentially.
Right, because some people can get a little bit upset when things don't go the way they expect them to. But
Exactly.
Hunter, not only do they do that, but they prepped you for that by, repeatedly in the beginning being like, everything is not as it seems.
Yeah.
Expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
That's the kind of story this is.
That's a huge part of it. And then when they did Greed Island, they even went even further a little bit into the riskier realm by introducing a whole slew of characters that we would shift perspective to and do all kinds of world building via their perspective. And I think for me, that was where I was almost like, wait a minute, like I don't know if I can handle this. This is actually too many new characters to give world building through. I'm like getting Sezgra's perspective. I'm getting Genthru's perspective.
Right.
I'm getting like all kinds of other people's perspective. I think the best way they did it actually in the show was the Phantom Troop. Even better than Kurapika's in a way. Because Kurapika's was a very good perspective change.
Yep.
But Jacob and I fell in love with the Phantom Troop.
I mean, that's no surprise.
No surprise at all. They're a legendary aspect of this show.
Yes.
But when you think about the fact that they consistently did this, and they doubled down on it as they went further and further into future arcs, like in the beginning it was the main four, and then they kind of narrowed the focus a little bit more, and then they kind of narrowed the focus even then a little bit more with Heaven's Arena.
Yeah.
But once they got into the York New stuff, they blew it up. They're
did.
like, all right, now it's Kurapika as the main part there. Now we're getting the Phantom Troop into this whole mix. We kind of even got a little bit of Hisoka perspective.
Yeah.
Like, there was a moment in time where we were thinking, like, wait, is Hisoka a main character?
Is he
like,
getting an upgrade?
Like, we were thinking about him in the wrong way as, like, some kind of, like, built-up antagonist for the end game. But it's like, no, he's just a character doing his life, and we're just giving perspectives on him because he has these clever world-building bits that will tie into the Phantom Troop, and it's just, it's so clever.
And we haven't seen the Phantom Troop in Ahsoka for a while.
Now, it's been quite a few episodes,
And even though we might be like, oh man, we want more from them. No. That's part of what makes Hunter x Hunter so amazing.
Right.
They'll build up these awesome characters, and then they'll go and save them for later, right?
Yep.
They won't exhaust you with them. They won't make you grow sick of them.
Right.
They'll be like, we know that you love them, and absence makes the heart grow fonder.
So we're going to tease and
We're gonna
tantalize
tease you,
by, like, having you think about, wait, what would happen if they joined back into the story?
Right. Yep.
So, in the Chimera Ant arc, they also did this as well by shifting the focus hard onto the ants themselves because they're letting you know, we have a longevity aspect of the story tied to the development of these characters.
Right.
And we don't
this
know
ecosystem
necessarily
that they're building.
Yeah, we don't know necessarily which ones are going to be the ones that we get attached to.
Yep.
So we're just ready, okay, which ones are going to be big? Which one? All of them essentially are until they're not. So that's something that Hunter x Hunter does exceptionally well. And I think we kind of encapsulated the general aspect of this third and final point here. But all of this is kind of how it saves the long-running show format for us in particular. We think another show that does a really good job of this is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yes.
In that it massively changes the dynamic on a repeated basis, but it's also a little bit campier in that show in that you can kind of expect it now. Whereas Hunter x Hunter doesn't let you know exactly when it's going to shift focuses on things in the show.
But as much as with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, as much as we love Joseph, right? And as sad as we were when he was no longer, the number one main character after part 2.
Right.
If they had done that and they continued to do that forever, eventually
we would have lost a little bit of
we might have lost some of the
novelty,
the interest in the novelty, all that stuff.
With Hunter x Hunter, they are almost testing their limits in a really cool way by having the main characters of Gon and Killua be almost the primary focal point of the story, except for the York New arc, and maybe a little bit of the Greed Island bit.
Sure,
but when we kind of bring things out into where we're at right now in the Chimera Ant arc, we've kind of shifted the pacing to be a very, very different style from both Greed Island and York New, which in our opinion, kind of the two better arcs that we've seen thus far.
Sure.
I would say.
Yeah,
but
the Hunter exam was great.
Yeah, the other ones were great, but those two kind of have their own things that bring them above the rest. And it's kind of taking from both of them. So it's almost like it's not only a discovery-based storytelling format, the writer is discovering what things work in Hunter x Hunter better than others, and the show and the story evolves with it to where you're actually getting excited about okay, what's
Because
the writer going to figure out and
gets
do?
better as it goes on.
Right. You can tell that the writer is going on this journey with us,
right?
And it makes the future storytelling stuff we just get more and more excited for it.
And because here's one of the other things. I am a huge fan of like those awesome endings, right?
Right.
An awesome ending for me is just it's so good. I love it. But with Hunter x Hunter, I almost don't care if there's an ending. I mean, I want there to, be more and
you want characters to have satisfying arcs, but the world's story as a whole
doesn't need to
end. It doesn't need to end, and that's the genius thing. I think you hit the nail on the head. Is that Hunter x Hunter has kind of walked the tightrope of being a character show and a world show.
Right.
So when you have fantasies in storytelling, you'll notice very quickly which ones are character focused and which ones are world focused.
And like what percentage of each.
Yeah. Well, Lord of the Rings, for example, is a great bit of a world focused show.
But not really a character
a character show. Like the character depth is pretty non-existent.
Yeah.
Like we've got great characters, don't mind you, but they're all caricatures of their own specific things to fill a role. Hunter x Hunter takes the whole caricature thing and just relegates that to the design. And then doesn't make necessarily the character consistent with the design, so that we're like, oh, Bisky is obviously this type of... No, you have no idea. Yeah. And that whole misdirect, and you can't really predict what things are going to be, makes the discovery experience for us as the viewers and the audience be extremely compelling.
Yeah.
Because we feel like we're actually going somewhere, and it's going to be exciting. I think I can't really explain it more than it's the ultimate risk in storytelling to do things in a journey format with no specific end goal in sight, but you continue on the story via the characters' motivations and perspectives wholeheartedly.
Yeah, because
come what may.
It's the idea that when you do something like this, you're counting on the fact that one, your audience enjoys your story, as it is, right? But also that they will trust you to innovate.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times people don't like that. They want to get their fix of that same thing, right?
Right. That's the whole serialized like cop drama thing.
Exactly.
Repeat the same thing.
And those are good for their thing, but well, anyways.
but we're talking about the ways that Hunter x Hunter is unique.
Right.
And this is something you're not going to find in combination anywhere else.
Right. And this is
I challenge you to try and find something that does it this way and this well.
And this is the other thing that I would say is so huge. Mm-hmm. That the creator is confident enough in their abilities. And I know that there's the issues with the hiatuses and stuff.
Because the health of the guy is not so great.
Right. But the ability to be confident enough in your own creative abilities to keep making this world, to keep expanding on this story without losing out on the heart and soul of what made it so good in the first place.
Yes. And that is the characters.
Huge.
Like, that's a thing that I feel like I get inspired to write from... I get inspired to write characters because of Hunter x Hunter. When I think about Hunter x Hunter, I think the parts that I miss as as my own limited self in terms of writing ability, I do not see the threads going along with the world building as well as the mangaka does. But when I see these character motivations weaving through and stuff, and seeing them make kind of mistakes and kind of be kind of inconsistent human beings.
Right, exactly.
Like, there's those little things there where I'm like, this is something else. Because I feel like the Hunter x Hunter world building is so good, like it's so good that it overshadows and people forget how good the characters are when the characters are being like the focus of the story almost like solely. And when I think
totally
back,
get what you mean.
Yeah, and when I
have to like the power system in Hunter x Hunter, like I mean, come on,
and all the people in the world, and it's fantastic. But when I think back on the moments of Hunter x Hunter where there were huge highlights for me, it was when the characters' motivations and their decisions aligned just so much so that they were almost perfect, but they had that little bit of kind of human inconsistency
to make
and
it
like
not feel manufactured.
To make it not feel manufactured.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was just like, Like, this is 10 out of 10. This is the good stuff right here.
Yeah.
And because they've consistently hit that on like an infrequent basis, because they have a lot of world stuff to go into,
and they want to make sure that you don't start to predict when it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, guys, this arc we're getting to is crazy. The stuff. Oh my gosh. Anyway,
yeah.
If you haven't watched Hunter x Hunter yet, go watch it. It is a long show,
right?
But I will tell you that the people who told us about this initially, we are very appreciative of you. We might have doubted you in the beginning because it was a very long show, and we have our own salty backstories with long shows.
We were very salty,
and we are happy to say that it was worth it so far.
And like this,
and that's crazy to say.
This has
us.
changed my perspective on long-running stories.
Yeah,
and that is not something I ever thought was going to happen.
Yeah, I think it didn't like lower my threshold of like what I'll accept.
Oh no,
or anything at all. What we're saying is that like we're willing to look at what are the different ways long-running shows can be done, so that they'll be compelling all the way throughout.
Right.
Or at the very least, like more than most short shows are in terms of like percentages and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, Hunter x Hunter. It's a unique form of storytelling. It does discovery. Amazing. It does dynamic world-building perspectives. And it kind of saves the whole long-running show format from kind of mediocrity and just kind of repetitiveness.
Right. It doesn't stagnate.
Yeah. Like, look to Hunter x Hunter as kind of the beacon of how to do the long-running show format right. And, we're not talking about the hiatus problems. Those are completely separate and outside of the actual creation of the story.
Yep.
And we haven't finished Hunter x Hunter yet, so we don't know what we have to look forward to.
Right.
But we're excited for it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move over into Q&A section now.
Yes.
Before we go into the Q&As, though, I just have to let you guys know that our faction event on Discord is still going, and people are going to be shouting out their factions in the questions, and they're pretty wacky names and stuff like that, but I wanted to let you guys know what the standings are in case you're curious and stuff, and maybe you're like, that sounds like kind of fun. I want to join them. We have the antagonist ascendancy at number 1, because of course the villains have to take the lead early on.
Exactly.
They've got their scheming and their plots and they're going on
That's
here.
Right.
They would call themselves anti-heroes, but antagonists will always be antagonists, yeah. And then we have the waifu warriors in second place. They have their champion Speedwagon leading them on, and many others, of course. The shonen junkies are coming up there. They recently came from the bottom to up third place.
So
they're building up their resolve through the power of friendship.
Where do we think this is going? Yeah.
And the League of Lollies are struggling a little bit, but in reality,
they may be small, but
their hearts are large.
Metaphorically speaking, yes.
Yeah, in actuality, the waifu warriors, the shonen junkies, and the League of Lollies are all right and around the same bracket here. The antagonist got an early lead, but we'll see what happens in the future.
So if you want to sway that balance, tip the power scales,
Yeah, go check out the Discord. It's for any Patreon support, you get access to that. And yeah, if you want to also support the faction as well, asking questions in our podcast and just shouting out one of the faction names helps them out. So that's cool. It does. Yeah. All right. So the first question we're going to go into is from Rake Jake. It says, after Avatar, what anime or show have you guys rewatched the most? Whoa. That's a tough question.
That is a very tough question.
I would say that it's actually kind of split because there's live action shows and there's anime. I have watched, some cartoons and stuff, and I would consider Avatar to be more along the lines of the American anime, cartoon, whatever.
Anime.
Yeah, all that stuff. It's kind of nebulous there. But I've actually watched Firefly quite a lot, probably half a dozen times. And then for
Firefly's a good one.
And then for anime, it's probably got to be a short one as well, like not Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, even though I have watched that quite a bit, but it's more like the highlights and stuff. I've watched Bacano, I think, also half a dozen times.
Okay, if you haven't seen Bacano's one of those ones that has incredible rewatch value because you don't fully appreciate it after the first watch. It's when you watch it again.
It's so good, though. Like Bacano is one of those rare, near 10 out of 10 stories for what you don't expect.
Exactly.
Like, you won't realize you're watching a 10 out of 10 show immediately. Because it might not be a 10 out of 10 show for you, but it has that potential, and if this is your kind of story, oh my gosh, you will fall in love with Bacano. Like, Yeah.
Caleb got a nosebleed over the ensemble cast in that show.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. But okay, what is yours?
Probably? For me, it would have to either be like Ruby, because I've watched that a lot, or
like Black Lagoon,
or possibly
Toradora?
Black Lagoon. But Black Lagoon is more of like Black Lagoon and Haruhi are more like specific episodes. Toradora would be the main one I think I've watched.
Toradora, yeah.
Oh, also Attack on Titan. I mean, not now that the second season's out, but
Sure.
I watched the first season like a solid 5 times. Toradora, 5 times.
Yeah, sounds about right. Athenry asks, what's the most positively surprised you've been by a show you're reacting to? I would say in all surprisedness, like actually like Devil is a Part-Timer. Now, here's the weird thing is that when I saw that Devil is a Part-Timer was going to win, I was like, okay, this is the popular show. Right. It's kind of a goofy slice of life comedy, but I was worried that like it was just going to be a weak Konosuba. And I'm thinking like everything comedy wise, and it gets compared to Konosuba. Konosuba is just genius.
Yeah.
But Devil's a Part-Timer really surprised me. I really got attached to the characters. And that was something that I was just like, I actually got attached to the characters in a slice of life comedy. What the heck?
Yeah.
So yeah, that one surprised me.
I would say that great one. I didn't think about that one. I would say probably either Psychopaths. Because like
it was
people
a cop
saying
beginning.
it's a cop drama, but it's really good and you should watch it.
And we don't like cop dramas.
We don't like cop dramas, so I was kind of going into it being like, okay, but all right, we'll see. And it was fantastic.
Yeah, it generated some of the highest like length and like level, I would say, of like deep discussion of like any show we've ever done. Fantastic. So if you haven't seen our reaction to Psychopaths, go check that out. I mean, kind of shameless plug here, but more so like if you like the deep discussion stuff that we do, Psychopaths, especially in the second half of the show, good stuff. All right, wait, what's this for? Asks, in Infinity War, which 2 characters had your favorite interactions? Oh, okay, so this is the which 2 characters together.
Right.
Yeah. I think we should say at the same time, because we'll influence each other based on the things there. Mine's very, very easy. Like, I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, I got it.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Thor
and Rocket. Yes! Yeah! Thor and Rocket! Oh my gosh!
They're just so good.
Thor and Rocket were perfect.
Yeah.
They were the matchup that I just didn't know I wanted.
But it was so good.
I expected Doctor Strange and Stark. I expected Peter and Stark.
Yeah.
I expected
which Peter? Because there's Peter Quill and Peter Parker.
Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Peter Quill and Stark were probably the best in terms of chemistry and dialogue, in terms of their just interactions and stuff. But the one I think that needs to be mentioned, even though it wasn't my favorite, is Gamora and Thanos.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
That was really
That
good.
was the one that I should have seen coming.
Right.
But I didn't.
Because there's an actual familial relation.
Right. And that was good.
Yeah.
All right. Family Guy asks, any thought on how to write an angry
character.
Wait, what's this for? Shouted out the Shonen Junkies.
Oh,
so, yeah, that's right.
That's right.
And Family Guy 103 asks, any thoughts on how to write angry characters, or Bakugo or Kageyama? So like
I would say use them as examples, because those characters, while they might start as angry characters, they don't end as angry characters, especially Kageyama.
I would say another one who does that really well is Zuko. Zuko is probably the best angry character I know about. The reason why Zuko is done so well is because he doesn't stay angry.
And and when he is angry, there's a reason that he's angry.
Yes.
So even if you're like, okay, I don't like, this is a bit much, you can at least understand where he's coming from.
The main thing that makes angry characters not be done well is basically they don't do what he's talking about, where they make them angry for the sake of having a caricature of an angry character that has red hair and, furrowed eyebrows and generally just an explosive attitude. But if you give a very specific character reason for it, you can do a lot with that, and there's a lot of good character development types of characters that you can do.
If you remember, we didn't like Bakugo at the beginning because we thought that's what he was
going to be. I hated
Bakugo
in the beginning.
We really didn't like him.
Bakugo took a long time to grow on me.
He was a slow burn.
Yes, he was, Jacob. Wow, I walked right into that. All right, Bilgewater Blues asks a totally unrelated question, but who among the bros is the better chess player from the League of Lollies? Hey, shout out League of Lollies. It's
you.
probably me,
Yeah.
but the only reason I think that is the case is because of age. So I've just played chess more than Jacob.
Yeah, our dad was really good at chess, so it would be this thing where, like, eventually we just sort of stopped playing it because it's like, okay, well...
He beat us, you know?
He beat us, and
that
made it
he
less
taught
fun.
me earlier than Jacob, so...
That's true.
I've kind of always had the just number of years experience.
I'm too aggressive for my own good in chess.
He has actually got like a 10% higher win rate just by playing white, and because he gets that first turn advantage, you know, which is real. That's you get an advantage when you play white as chess.
But yeah, Caleb's definitely better.
But yeah, I also was involved in a chess class, so
that's true.
That's another unfair
help.
advantage that I have. Sean Kenny asks, when writing an awesome side character, how do you keep them from detracting from the main character, and how do you give them space to shine without overshadowing the main character?
Ooh, okay, so the way...
Ooh,
all right,
yeah.
so I would say the way you keep them from detracting from the main character is that you make sure you actually have a really good main character. In stories in general, if you can, at all possible, you want your main character to be the audience's favorite or, like, second favorite person in the story,
please.
right? You want them to be
Oh
right
my
up there at the
gosh.
top. Even though that might seem like silly and like, oh, that's so like lame having the main character be your favorite character. No. Like you want that to be a thing.
Yeah. You can't manipulate your audience, but you can give them ample fuel to where your main character is at the very least in the top, like say you have 10 characters and just randomly character number 7 got hugely popular for some silly reason. Kind of like how Neo did in Ruby.
Right, or Shinso
from My Hero Academia. Those are, great characters in their own specific reasons, but but
very different reasons.
Yeah, very different reasons. But the reason why My Hero Academia, for instance, is so good is because Deku is basically the best character in the show.
Yeah.
Maybe other than All Might.
All Might, right.
But those are both the main characters.
Between those two.
So
yeah.
Focus on developing your main character to make them be great.
Yeah.
And then that way, you're not worried about this problem at all.
And for the side characters, I would say keep it simple. Whatever you're wanting to do, keep it simple. That way it doesn't take a lot of time so that it doesn't detract, and you can hit it strong and have it be something that they can the audience can like wrap their head around
quickly.
And then immediately move on to something else. Right?
Nishinoya from Haikyuu is a great example of this.
Yeah.
Hinata and Kageyama are obviously the best characters in the show in terms of like just core engagement with the audience. But Nishinoya has just this rule of cool factor to him, and he's so passionate and excited about what he does, and he cares so much about how well he contributes to the team. He's probably a lot of characters like, fan favorite,
right?
But he doesn't have the depth as much as the other characters that make them his favorite. Same with probably like Oikawa. Oikawa has the depth. He is a side character. He doesn't.
And they did that in a very small amount of time,
right? So he might be a lot of other characters, favorites and stuff, but. He doesn't detract at all from the main characters.
Yeah.
Fatiksu,
yeah.
Who is your favorite lolly character, Caleb? Ilyasville from Fate, I guess.
Okay. I mean,
sure.
Well,
I don't really know many lolly characters.
Well, okay. Here's what I would say. If you want to answer that question properly, remove the concept of lolly from your head and just have it be a very small anime character that if they are old doesn't look old, I guess. So
Nagato, Yuki Nagato.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Yuki Nagato from Haruhi is probably I'm
so proud.
Well, I've watched the movie now.
Right, yeah, you watched the movie now. Yeah.
We all know how much Jacob loves lollies. I was really curious to have you a favorite lolly character too. Shout out to League of Lollies. Okay, cool. Well, there you go.
Leather Blanca. Hey, I know that reference.
Yeah.
I would like to know what you think about the King Killer Chronicles and maybe what your favorite books are. Sorry for my English.
Ooh.
So, King Killer Chronicles, if you want an epic, crazy fantasy to be able to sink your teeth into, that is one for you. The characters are not the best, in my opinion, but I've never had so much fun just reading. Like, the act of actually reading the book. The prose is amazing.
Yeah. I like, not really finished any of them yet.
They're big books.
Like, they're big books, and I think I've got, like, 40% of the first one under my belt. But in terms of favorite books... I really got to give a shout out to Lord of the Rings. It's it's kind of easy to say that, but I feel like a lot of people say they've read Lord of the Rings or that they'd like to, but they don't actually read it.
Yeah, they're like, I love Lord of the Rings, but then it's like, you should check out
You should actually check out the books. The movies are fantastic. Yes.
Amazing.
They're one of the best book-to-movie adaptations in existence.
Yeah.
But the books are really good. And if you're wanting to learn, like, world-building writing in a way that's beautiful and mythos and stuff. If you just want to write fantasy, you kind of have to read Lord of the Rings at some point in your life. But Pepper-kun asks, how long is too long for a story? Hey, that's kind of related to the podcast here.
It is indeed.
I would say that once you've basically forgotten how to write your characters into new arcs for themselves individually, your story is too long.
Sure, yeah. I think, that's probably the main way you can tell when something is too long, is when...
It's when your characters basically forget who they are. You lost it somewhere back there,
right?
But at least now for sure it's been too long.
And as for, is there ever a point where there are just too many episodes, seasons, chapters, volumes, whatever, to want to devote time into watching/reading it?
That's a personal, decision thing.
The Wheel of Time, right? I've never read that, and I probably never will, because...
Because it's the Wheel of Time!
It's the Wheel of Time, right? But I can imagine, because that's just very daunting, and I would rather read a dozen different, unique series.
Right.
I think that would be an amazing. I'm sure it's that big for a reason.
It's an investment of time, and a lot of people will make kind of the excuse for it if what they're going to be consuming is good enough. It's kind of like how Legend of the Galactic Heroes is a show that everyone says that they want to watch because it's considered one of the greatest animes of all time, but you're committing a lot of time to do it. Yeah. Also, One Piece is still the king of shonen as far as things go, but it's a lot of time to watch it and stuff. So it's just up to you.
Yeah, the ways around this, I would say, would be to make there be more bite-sized chunks or whatever that people can digest and get into it that way. And then they're like, okay, if it's long, I guess I'll keep going.
Yeah. CRM GSEC asks, I hope this doesn't sound strange, but what are the 3 characters you personally consider the most physically attractive from RWBY? Oh, huh. Now, guys, we are being perfectly straight with you and stuff. I can go and just say who's physically attractive and stuff. That does not say anything about my desires for this to do anything with this character. I'm just saying there's people that are gonna insinuate stuff.
No, okay, so
let's do each at least one
I'm just trying to think of number 3.
Oh, you're just trying to think of number 3. You already know 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think right now for me, I'm okay. Who's your number 1? Coco.
Yeah.
Oh shoot. Now, physically attractive.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
you just have a thing for massive weapons.
Well, that certainly doesn't help, or doesn't hurt, but yeah. No, Coco's amazing.
Okay. I almost think this one is kind of emphasized more because she's gone, but Pyrrha is my number 1 for sure.
Sure.
I don't think there's really going to be anyone that was that way, more so.
Okay.
I think also I end up in my head, because of the voice acting being such a huge part of RWBY, I end up if someone has a voice acting performance that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of its style, the whole attractiveness thing goes out the window for me.
Yeah.
That's why I really have got to say Ren is my number 2. Just in terms of him being, especially once he became sexy Ren in volume 4 and 5.
Oh, okay.
Ren.
Well then. Okay. Well then, I know who was your number 3 would be. Well, number 2 is Neo.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're like, really?
I just don't get the fascination with Neo. I'm just one of those people, guys.
Okay.
All right, so your number 3, you figured out now.
Yes, and because this is, I would not mind looking like this person at
Oh my
all.
gosh, I think I know who it is.
You know exactly who it is.
I think I know who it is. Yep, go for it. Ironwood.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I was like, the minute you were you're like, oh, it's cool to say guys. Oh, I know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know who I'm gonna.
Ironwood,
so freaking funny.
with his uniform and the tie and everything and the gloves.
Well, the 5 o'clock shadow, because he's in the stress work of
and
defending
the
Atlas
the
and stuff.
attractive bits of gray in his hair. You know,
you're all about being a silver fox in your 50s and stuff, but still looking like you're 35.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, because we mentioned adults in this and stuff, I have to give a shout out to Winter. Winter, when she stepped on to the stage as far as characters go, she had the presence in her voice acting performance that was just really good.
Yes, she did a great job.
I'm not giving a negative to any of the other people who have great voice actors
did
and stuff.
Great job.
But she just did a fantastic job. Also, we haven't spent enough time with her for her to have moments that bring things into the negative.
Sure. Well, but the original question was just
physical attractiveness. Yeah. I really liked Winter.
Okay.
But wow, we took a lot of time for that question.
And Kenji, what are the 3 things that immediately get you invested into a story?
Shout out for the antagonist ascendancy. I would say characters, good characters. That's the main thing for me. And I think to double down on the character things is I get invested into a story when there's a large amount of characters.
Okay.
Like there's a separate thing here. Because we can have a character-centric, Wolf Children thing where we're going to get into one character, really, and it's just, it's good. And we have other things like Game of Thrones where it's just so much story. And I need a fictional world that is engrossing.
So that you're just not even in this world anymore.
You're completely out of my own world.
You're lost somewhere in Westeros. You don't know where. Yeah.
Oh, I know exactly where. No, because I know things about the show. Yeah,
right.
I know exactly where we are. So
I would say
those are the 3 things for me.
I would say contradictions in the main character or characters.
Very specific.
Yeah. Contradictions. Also, this can kind of tie into that, but ever since I saw A Silent Voice, this is just oh my gosh, I want this in all
dialogue?
stories. No. Well, okay. Okay, yeah, I'll just throw that in there now. Anytime that there are characters that communicate without speaking, I have very good positive association with that, with Haruhi, Silent Voice, all these different stories. But then the other one would be where the main conflict is because of a mistake of the main character.
Ooh, wow. That's actually a lot. That's almost every single story in existence, but it's also not.
It's also not. But,
but
as a way to basically make your main character have a reason to do all the story stuff, having it all be kind of their fault is a great way to do it.
Sure. Graham Spector asks, what would happen if you started a show that one or both of you didn't really like? So he's talking specifically about reactions and stuff, because we've already done that. We've started, I started SAO a long time ago before the channel. I didn't like it at all. And I quit it at some point.
Right.
But the thing is, we've got a system in place to where we almost shouldn't run into a show that we don't like.
Yeah, and here's the other thing.
So if it would happen, I have no idea, because I don't think we'll ever have that problem.
Well, and here's something
at least not anytime soon.
Most of the time when people don't like a story, it's because of some basically emotional mood, right?
Right.
It's not necessarily because of the story itself. There are exceptions, of course, but that's also what makes people like stories. So a lot of times it just has to be coming to the story with the right attitude and saying, okay, what are the things that this story does really well? Because most stories, even if they're not the best story, will have at least that one thing that is the reason it at least got turned into a production.
Yeah.
If not, the person put in all the time and effort to make it a thing.
To clarify, almost every single reaction series we've done has had a part in the story that we were like, huh? What?
Right.
And that doesn't make us not like the story.
Exactly.
Because we're learning things. I think that's another thing that Jacob does better than me in particular, is he's kind of helped me grow onto this, is specifically finding out what I can gain from this story in terms of technical abilities.
Sure.
Writing and
the perfect story doesn't exist.
Overall analysis.
Objectively, subjectively, they can all be perfect, but objectively,
IQ exists, so,
well,
I'm just kidding. IQ is perfect characters, but not necessarily the perfect story. You're right.
Lex the Graceful Rival.
We have to have a question with Lex the Graceful
right.
Rival in here, because you just do fantastic questions, so thank you so much. This is great. You want to
So how do you handle character breakups? I mean, characters in a romantic relationships breaking up, just to be clear. I rarely see them in stories, especially in anime, used between major characters in stories. If someone breaks up, it's usually side characters.
Yeah.
That is an excellent question.
So how do we handle in terms of us writing it, or in terms of how do we... Because I think it's talking about it from a writing perspective.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But I want to say that in a lot of ways, Legend of Korra, for instance, wasn't the greatest show. Like, it had a lot of problems. Right. But it actually had its main characters break up because it realized, like, the show realized that we can't force these two main characters to have their little romantic relationship thing, because there's literally no character chemistry for it to work.
Exactly.
And I think that that's kind of was the growing pains of Legend of Korra getting multiple seasons. But that's a cool thing to show, because it's like, hey, if you essentially have the characters realize we have no chemistry, or we have, a character essentially betray another, that's where I think a lot of the action stories tend to be. It's like the James Bond thing.
Exactly.
It's really overdone.
Guess the villain, right?
Oh, it has to be the woman, because she's a temptress, and she uses her body to manipulate
whoever
the
main
male
protagonist, right? That's how you know.
I hate that. I hate that. Like so that kind of stuff just pisses me off. That's why I really don't like James Bond in general. Yeah. But also, I have seen like one or two stories do that like okay, to where it wasn't a thing of like, where it wasn't just horrible. But I would like to have this done well.
Yeah. And I think the reason it doesn't happen very much is because it's a time investment that feels like it just went away. And hey, that's kind of like the real life, right? You invest all this time into a relationship and then it doesn't end up working out. Yeah. But that can be a great thing for characters. There was a show I watched. You didn't watch it. This was a while ago.
Okay.
Called Golden Time, and it actually it didn't really do a breakup per se, but it more of showed it started after the breakup, right? And the one character's like mad at the other person and is trying to constantly like cause trouble in their life, right?
Joy.
But they ended up having it be something where afterwards they ended up coming to terms with it, and they ended up still being friends, and it was really good. Gotcha. Doing something like that where you also build up the romance itself and then showing it end, that's harder because you're spending a lot more time on that. But
yeah, so what I would say if I had to handle this, what I would basically do is I would show the steps in the relationship specifically as kind of like you would foreshadow a plot twist, foreshadowing the breakup, and have the consistency of the breakup be around those things foreshadowed, so that people go, yes, at this point and this point and this point we saw the seeds of this starting to form. It took time, just like anything else, for it to happen naturally, rather than being through some violent act of betrayal that just came out of left field because plot twist.
Right.
And then what you do is you build the paths of the characters beyond that.
Right.
I think the main thing that a lot of breakup things happen is they keep the character perspective so limited to one that you basically make them kind of the protagonist in this, the good guy or the good person in this whole thing, because whoever you don't have perspective on, you just have to guess based on the other character's perspective. So I'd say the best way to do it would be to keep perspective on both characters past it and give them actual paths / arcs beyond the relationship, so that we knew that they were there to be more than just the relationship.
Because here's the thing, I would say this is the main reason why this doesn't happen, other than the time investment thing, is that the romance is in there for the romance to be in there, right? because hey,
makes me so mad when that
sells,
happens.
right? It sells. And because of that, parts of the characters, not necessarily the whole character, but at least the romantic part of the character is there just to fulfill the role, right? It doesn't exist as an actual part of the person. So if you don't do that, then you can actually have the breakup be a very positive thing, even if there's some negative emotions that go through it.
Because it's conflict along the path of character development.
Right. Exactly.
Which is generally a good thing. It invites change, but it also allows for basically an arc shift for these characters.
Right.
So overall, good stuff. Very hard to do.
Yes.
And
not a lot of people do it, but
not a lot of people do it. But let us know in the comments if you know of one that does that pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, that's it for our Q&A. If you want to have your question featured because either it didn't get featured in this one, ask it again in the next one, or just ask it here. And we'll try and get you featured for the next one on next Monday.
Don't forget to shout out your faction as well.
Don't forget to shout out your faction as well.
Yeah.
Each question gives points, so be sure to do that. Even if it doesn't get into the podcast here, we still count it.
Yeah. Antagonist Ascendancy, Shonen Junkies, Waifu Warriors, and League of Lollies.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.